Okay, so like me, typically the man looking very much in that job, like mine and showed on path of it's like that now. And 190 like so long term like the amount of one of all the term organ and all the white like the thing is like the scenario that has to do with it. So or that's trying to take place in like the realm of like the office location like the final product scenario and the PM in order to then get to like the visual like and those things. So eventually through testing self like and different like the like figuring out the way which comes out different divisions like they for lab 11 as well as Cali to lab work together and join and combine their powers to more like the to put in their effort to lab into some that way the appearing in like creating one portrait on the exotic manner reflecting in the scenario that was and that way through that portal in the exotic manner like that might Eleven and Alexander that enter through that portal and through the exhaust mapping so the projection travel through through the entire depth of the world and making it to making it to like the presentation where like going back one for one battle and I would be taking this like the now that I'm going to say and that way like I'm preparing like to play that program battle and like might be feeling in like the video but now as well as like a so monster which might be taking like the things like the scenario that so like I'm when the program battle will be over like so the thing for like then decided to like run back to that's the real world. And basically, I'm going to bring like them set up setting coding through like for the back to like the real world like this now again about right and coding as like maybe Nancy like my could be about to and like the one will after like only like I'm just going to get that point that I'm going to finally land the unstable form board finally giving up and basically that the collapse of land to the remote hacking and that point is like was not going with it. But like I'm still referring by then like 40 without probably made it to that sort of type to get the real world. It's like putting scenario with the get while my and like then that that again 11 and like then that again at that point it is trapped in like these locations like this now then about so like initially I'm going to like some of these and then like them or my can then I'm kind of thing and think that they are how they are going to trap in that W career. But like at that point, still going to lack 11 straight away, lack about to use 11 powers to like once again create like the workforce to like the real world of them that come back. But like as like 11 will be about to use the powers like that will last like a number of different powers to be most likely might that moving thing to be stopping 11. Like this now that I'm going to and I'm going to bring what to be maybe at that point might that if you're telling that then the even though they don't go get the going to tell last maybe like the law for platform or maybe having while 11 while it's like with the store on battle like it's like a high probability that I'm going to know the perspective. So that regardless of the some right like the Lord battle or not, yeah. And then at that point all of them finally might lack telling the parents that basically they're turned back to like the real world and like once again 11 and carrying the team once again in the and that people like going up and off game won't exactly like how Karen and Gary is that if he once again coming out from like film and Gary and like instead for them to like in the first start to like new beginning like this location well like without creating element creating like the one to that the real world the 11 and Gary will be same from that the real world like dubbing real to be along the line my at that point telling to that strong and that can and how to like how to reflect rather than understand that so we were sitting in like them with the finding actually to that mic and we deciding to that begin to start and the beginning like the location it's like the scenario that I was and that is number three not at all we for them it all it's like the scenario that look like without like body and like without like microphone and like to the brand of and all of that and feelings of family behind and the real world like and then decided to like still staying at like the happy location for the is like the financial on scenario that I'm getting over and what is really so that things what my look very for like and that's the very end of this thing for like obviously I should play that who's this for in seeing that I'm going to protect them of Lamb 11 and carry on with the railway with Lamb 7 now. That is the major extension theory. So like the minimum theory right now is for like the fintech states like plan to make sure that are to create extent like into show down scenario that I'm sure that things are like the thing for and exactly like how like the exotic matter being present within like the real world market like that and the remaining of like that of that very exotic matter might be present in like the battle world market lab and that exact location of like the battle world market lab exactly like the same word from the lab. My key reputation being my Ethereum. So like for example, I actually want lab 11 is trying to using like the and doing like putting up mine from like the battle for lab that basically it's like example for like in the 11 defeating Vietnam in the initial battle against lab Vietnam within like the mind world like it's not then but like at that point I'm focusing for like exactly like oh Vietnam they extend towards move towards like the real world often lab towards land holding their through the exotic man I'm going to bring land Vietnam the similar man of like reaching out through Vietnam south like Vietnam reaching out all the way through the exotic man this might be process in like the parallel world forming lab reaching out to and pulling and taking away not only 11 and candy but also lab mine and Dustin and Black Hawker and like the again around the Black Dr. K Sullivan and so that Black Dr. K influence to at that point itself and by the time that the battle in level mind world will be over at that point when I'm still recording one of that means for like Dr. K and Sullivan and they are in the army to be making it to them the battle going from Black towards Black together. Yes, now that I so like at that point, I could now do so perfect dummies again, like putting all of them together into like the happy realm that is where like the actual sort of balance against like right now. And what might be like a source of might be living like that into reality, like figuring only at that point can that sort of balance the technology realm that thing into the scenario which are being more so than the and that way about the preemption by the time that we can have without full that substance and that my candidate and all of them into that the actual abuse of reality that by then like the skin and processing do not let they have set the time of close to like the actual remembering like the parallel lab like the knowledge that like timer would have started when that was would you already going on while they was doing getting to get to like the beach there or by the nurses now we don't looking at they are like while like they are like a lot of them having like that up with the of that they finishing like the total battle against like the chat of the episode number like that at this point to that defeat them before like the time of so would be that else that we get interacting like the busy and to the along the length of like situation of like Russian and Lebanon and all of that and at that point so battle and we get thing on or maybe object one was the object maybe so somewhere and maybe it being in the fundamental so the total what might be a bit more battle and then look at that like only at that point that maybe that Sullivan would be probably finding out from the true business fiction of that from the king and France and go to the second phase when it's not plan on the different. So definitely I'm different in that sort of that maybe not that the long of the cake and before the family while correcting for like basically after realizing that like Sullivan approach is only the way from the state and basically focusing on like getting the target like safety back to that real world before like kind of so that learn by then like my kind of like communicating practice information about the time on to the knowledge system that is different. So like that way like Sullivan while like the forum bad it would be again like when and I think it's something like that is the engineering and like at that point when I'm like almost nearing it at that point you can Sullivan and see what they Sullivan thinks of that getting successfully managing to like get all of that target, that body through that one mode, which would be at that point that should be solved to like the railway road like that way when getting all of that target and holding successfully back to like the railway and at that just helping to making it to like the railway like at that point some like before on that being over and before like making to be able to like get back to like the real world like the one whole the time of uh being overnight basically at that point like a lot of like about more and at that point like my game that getting trapped in like the real that point like the follow that will be organized they will from out and back down and or maybe like then being so often and don't and my not injury right. So definitely my very important that sitting on both that land one of my job in and that time my job in working for okay and of okay might be like the leader or like the main form of that method was in the that to be my experience. So definitely it might have been for that achieving that what like the character goals of that okay might have been to help with that might have been that for so reason for that or that in that confirms that like using 11 to like contact and to attempt to like make contact with like every might be on for this exact goal of that conversation might be like that will be the being it is the event of game of the episode right now for like after like all is for like and like every not with ready and all that showing up and you can playing like the good guy in front of like the other target of like other target for secondary selection scenario that I'm looking at and responding that second scenario that I'm looking at and like telling them that like he's going to like take Holly to see the not like now that I'm looking and that lead that way Henry taking Holly out of that house and basically I'm pregnant and really taking Holly a bit further away from the house and like because in that way what like Holly would be the next time Holly would be waking up like I'm looking that Holly to be most likely waking up to that exact location where where, where like right before like Holly was taken away by the Lamborghini and one of that Holly like I'm looking that in such that location came within like second of my world that exact memory which we are so trying to that that exact memory where like I'm so trying for Holly to be waking up the section and like I'm looking at like the game like that way Holly until I once again going through that perfect memory and basically Holly suffering that way and basically but now most likely in an remote that we are replaying that memory again and again and causing Holly and shattering Holly's that will and the sort of like now that I'm looking like and that way like control such a suffering whole of the like that Henry eventually getting Holly to that agree to help out with that Henry goes along with that correct and that other targets of that is like the scenario that way like Holly eventually ending up getting it to that take of that Henry is like the now that I'm so listening to what is during and the okay, so that the team of the moderator right now, like the final thing, I'm hoping to be like the team of last 11, not just 11 Cali and Matt but also will as well have some pretty deciding to that end of the full chat, but now that mind world to went down, but now in like the mind world battle. Like in the scenario that I'm going to like the they did that or like in that way, totally the intrigued about like the cave and how about like the camping or like everything required of like the game like and that's very slowly without really like matching and the strategy that will is also going to end up into lemon as mind but and find out what it is find out that government one of that country as to that why it is that action rate. So the reason behind that country is being both scared of the game and to figure it out while 11 and Kenny will be battling against like Vietnam. At that point, if that takes so long and we think not go and after they will be accepting and they will land 11 and carry get forward by Vietnam. Then at that point land them by probably need land the crucial information and to land the wise Henry letter by like the cable land take that will be use that uh actual reason if they find it out like they can go to use it to weaken Vietnam and bring that down to the along the lines of bring that bring the down getting that all that spelling to that might have been like it's not done to that way that I'm going to make for that the name of that 11 carry as well as black maxing as well as will entering into land Vietnam main world digitally and like number for him that game showing that 11 and carry the ways towards action break how to agree that way and after doing that like I'm so different that along with like when heading off to that the field to land fall in the ground close to like the cave and like them Maxine and Will while like the battle between like the team of like Cali and 11 against like for example we have like the duo of like Maxine as well as Will controlling to be entering that port close to like the cave and then be uncovering that crucial core memory of that country of that memory here of like the cave is that the the finale that which I'm still remembering it might be kind of to the now of the Oklahoma play or join which might be with Mama join might be that the case even great that might have been that extremely well situated that like uh the young country might have had to like go through during that with like Oklahoma play performance might be might have for with that fear stage and might have been less one of the fights that in the victim problem might have been difficult in the like that way like this and will like figuring out this memory and basically then eventually after figuring out the memory like that we making it towards that the battle location where like 11 and Charlie would be battling against like Henry. Yeah, like I'm to try now Henry would have thrown so much into like our points that like about the thing like Charlie I'm probably going to see the first to get like into the trouble in that battle against like for example and now in like the mind world that not that interesting and while 11 is trying to like tell Charlie out like at that point I'm probably thinking for like but now to take advantage of that situation from like 11 having plan now to also weaken 11 as well. Looking like things like that in like my scenario that I'm looking at that way like a scenario where like Daddy and 11 will be in that kind of extremely weakened and that almost defeated kind of thing. When I'm totally playing like the duo of like Maxwell and Will to be going up to that making it to that location and like them you should confuse the information of that what might be for example what might be technically requirement when it comes to increase the fear of that the Oklahoma play things that might be like the case that go like the vacuum and with and that when using that use information um again like bring at that point like scenario that I mean for and the remember that like the crowd quite making fun of Henry at that point might have been one at the time and that might like the crowd might have it might have been making fun of Henry that what it might have been affected less by Harrison Steve father like anything like he might have they might have used like a sort of like a specific word to make fun of Henry which might have seriously affected Henry might have been like the case is certainly even brain so also being for like Will and like Maxine by making it like them like shouting up particularly shouting out that exact word towards like Vietnam that made us like that I'm looking and that instantly in the picture now and basically also that would cover to like Vietnam the mighty Vietnam like that of careful memory the memory of that the young memory from the human brain and that other thing that was not like performance of that badland like that is such an important fight with and I feel like everything that fight time for like video of that of like 11 and Gary to get back from the feet and basically to fight back and like for basically then break down Vietnam. Since that is within like the mind what exactly not that number and that could be like how like the showdown battle against like the after which like and to remember for like an extremely and way like and for like the active like Maxine and when constantly do that word again like Henry like a recording so they made like a being feeling and steaming and raising and being something to that absolute theory and raise towards like Orphan 11 and like 19 and depend on like it's not that I'm going to bring that and going to bring that that is the thing in like fitness like how like exactly increasing even more like at that point like that I'm looking at that point not like but now it's really like the mind words but that's my word value like the scenario that I'm looking at soon after itself like I'm still there right now that I want to like like using Vietnam for like the to exactly like modeling that for 11 and like 18 and build and all of the 20% at that location then the parameter of land through like that sort man to like the location and like that to be like a point where like the second part of that to me that sort of that you will be again like that kind of like sort of scenario and I'm sitting on the other theory and with this. Okay, so that was something that I'm putting it from that 11 to indicating of that deciding take the decision to calculating the decision to that agree to that plan and basically stay time in like the upside down index of it while like the time would be up while the time would be up like to the end of the life like when we deciding if we have to implement that way if we finally have to like bring down the knowledge and so the thing might and the other thing that all them would be watching to make it back to like the real world. But like at that very last second, I'm not thinking that relevant and carry staying behind in like the upside down and telling them to go. And basically at that point of them bring none of them like the front sticking together, like also like sticking together, like regardless of the fundamental, regardless of the like of supplies like the sort of that they didn't get but now that all of them sticking together and then the flavor thing is not even really like not even robbing or like even the team that doing that leaving 11 is like this now with another sticking the like Robin and Robin sticking the thing that take this like a mistake with not from time 11 is like now it's not a bad 11 it's like it's not that I'm different so that's that way like I'm different like at that point like I'm different like might find it deciding to maybe like turn on like the timer basically but like at that point like between 2 days and 2 days and like the time of anything and basically at that point like the instruction from like the upside down like starting and basically starting like right towards like where like Mike and also in the series that was not that I'm so like until that point I'm looking like in tears like and like whatever shouting out to like Mike and all of them to that so to like to escape to like the red world but like none from that night and either Mike no Lucas no putting on like talking that something to 11 and telling 11 to that comes with them like it's not very and if that 11 doesn't count with them that they let's stay there with like 11 one until like the time goes on that would be number nine like they would get on then and that way like even they will like at that point like specific spreading towards them so like at that point I'm going to quick for like mustard and steel and like my all that thing that basically was it that basically was how it all ends like basically that they are that game over for all of the particular things that they were going to be doing at that point that like along with that the but like then that they like the board hold from down that then husband which we are getting thrown down to be along the lines like activity as everything that will be game over and that will last again as long as the object upside down object of the full developing it towards the second that will last again and the point that even using as to full power like like using all of power to that basically second that power 11 in like about that individual that might and say might like the past like a different like 11 languages to do this all of like you can feeling of happy everything and basically dedicate all of like including that carrying and Mike and Vicky and Robin when was that all of them like it when that they were dating all of them, including herself and basically them all sort of curious with like was like they're all flying up towards like towards like the pictures like towards like higher up towards like the these like have like the which will be productive behind them is like now chasing after them that discussion of like the two chasing after them quite they will be reflecting because like they will be regular notice partly and like they will be all flying they will be flying up towards like the top towards like the abyss towards like the top of like the one point towards like the like and Kiran giving after everything and Ethereum was open that in 11 that really starting the funnel like to make it all the way to like service in that role but by everything also things not at that point 11 like shouting out to that guy see that use of powers as well see that they will get to help 11 out to that they will get also get some and make to get some to like make it feel like the reason like it's rather than so like at that point I'm never going for carry initially not confusing to do that like this now and I'm because the carry at that point will be straight away and then like they make it towards like these like still like people like run around for okay to be still make it half of them and yeah to become elected to be allowed to run in an extremely difficult and even at that point carry assuming yeah, we can have that. So like at that point, everyone starts shouting out to carry to that piece of power, like by the department funding to make it. to get them to like these like very good. So like as like the food we get so close to them like so everything for like half of the most of the right now maybe the from so for that point the experience placement of like shouting out to Cali to that for that to like thematic that like she been from to be along like in motion maybe shouting out in an experience placement of to like Cali to like that get love against when after the proper serving for like Cali by using her soul ability that with that can be self second from that element just be by 11 as carry the as we think of like manage to that every day that might then get the then all the way to making it towards like the them all making it clear the navigating and making it towards like just barely just in time of like tendency of like the world to be collapsing after the like that with that like an internet point in scenario like that I can also that way getting back next situation of like they will back to like and I'm still thinking about the reimbursement for like them at that point, like without like really like thinking of like using elements like powers to like make it back to like the railroad. But like at that point, like it's like they might stop in them and stopping them and everything, selling them that they'll see for like 11 that they to just in that time that like 11 like for all the sacrifices that 11 had made to protect them percent that time like usually now their time to that give back to that 11 and really wants to like stick together and along the lines like my say just like in that day of the again for that improvement that just when when all of the black people agree to that really that me doing that like my just like what they right then we are all starting to start or start in like the expectation in like the real for like certain like that to thing like the mixture away from like the family in like the real but like even to find scenario like physical then in the relationship like that. It's in the labor theory and something right now it's that like everyone in like my day including even and even smaller might have been already aware that like this is different for a long time. I see that like with the description in offer state like uploaded by like it might have been after like the shopping lot of like box that most likely it might have been around that time that like George like offer might have done that like found out that like this that might be like that with the situation in the it might have been solely due to that all of them actually generally then that might then like actually genuinely care for like with that like taking care to that not want to like at all not with might have been like service for like them just in that time not asking with up to that quite willing to definitely my I think then about like the service definitely when the brand will so that's something that then that of like the might might have fear that they would cannot with about this lesson being the friend that is right now uncomfortable or that vulnerable or like insecure and that might have that might cause good to get stuff might be along the lines of like the fear that they might have had as well. It might have been a short part for like them to set up like not talking about like big might be like the activity that we might experience as also the my clear important is for like in like the final store on battle level different for like Henry most likely like using the same strategy against to that their will of that that false user of that now they once again in that the final store on battle begins like right now it's like there's another development plan. At that point that will to that after finishes that front that not all the things integrated reflections so at that point after preparing for that maybe maybe showing that revealing to when this untold different that exactly like how will and Robin are different that the thing Henry has exactly might be different in a similar might be that track to the day exactly might be so definitely I'm different Henry so revealing that to an extremely shocked with at that point during the forum that is not about to see like how Henry might be a sentiment friend might be different and that way it might be similar to get on the line like Henry to be revealing to that with and at that point I'm not looking that Henry trying to that convict will that basically telling with that like see how Henry have like ended up all alone like as the mother born will continue that as well. Effect like Henry would be land definitely how this as well would be end up would be ending up in a two the all alone and the start of would by everyone to the announce the rain only for rainfall action rain so that will add once again manipulate and and trying into the company will like rather than so like at that second attempt of action rain like I'm thing for that will to that that actually to like start to like favor of it until eventually I'm going to find that will still holding on to those like dream on what's fun and the female was likely at that point telling a shock Henry that is because that Henry never says anything about Black Henry, that is only the Black Henry never fought against Black Henry, it's only the Black Henry is that all alone might be the lines of the different with heading to shock Henry. It's like the scenario that I'm developing and even though that on the outside that it will maybe might be like pretending as if that Henry that for the font of it that solitude that the actual case maybe might be that like data of Henry as well might be that is suspect data and might be the threat for like human connection but that Henry might have been for like a long time by now might have been different or like the experience of in that like human connection when you have move on with for like so like Henry might have moved on from about quitting and and might have the friendly right to that effort himself but like actually that like use that hoping something use that enjoying this like solitude and his and organize the black work I see like that's your different behavior like and raise like about to develop something and never so there is number so like I'm different in that pattern of black bring to that to bring when and to that to develop will like and to bring that agenda of that the multiple agenda of black and bring and those different feeling that for that is happening. But like you think of that multiple agenda like in black and bring that you to that different during that agenda of Henry, actually under different will strongly and boldly that it focused that the truth behind why Henry the to the second. But in that maybe like in the scenario that I'm looking at Henry Johnson being unable to left hand is also through all the hard truth like maybe like in the scenario that I'm looking at there may be telling Henry that like regardless of that how like freedom that Henry Henry had literally had that like the training that freedom Henry they had a chance that 11 to change things around and basically change Henry's life for like the better yeah like Henry so it's good and that's why Henry is like even to like the person that Henry forces like to realize kind of different things will most likely telling Henry and that that feeling that to bring that to be like such hard truth that against that Henry that with at that point you get thrown in which like a system to be too much for like Henry to handle. And of course to bring that they both through and work of through by with ending up to be perfect that is the extreme the wonder half of that Henry within which that Henry experience out against that Mike and Alexander and have thrown such an absolute extreme race and fulfilling towards the it's like the episode on that scenario. Then this is the different